Hello everyone, thanks for joining me today. I am out again with the OM-1 Mark II and the 150 to 400 millimeter lens. And today my goal is to kind of go through the video capabilities of this camera. There's a lot of videos online about the different photo capabilities and how capable it is to do birds in flight and other wildlife things. It's a very capable camera in photo mode, but I do a lot of video work. Most of my client work is videos. My YouTube videos, obviously I need to do a lot of video work. So my main question is, how does this camera operate? What are the capabilities and just the different features this camera has in doing video? So that's the goal for today, is to kind of go through that. I am headed down to actually a little pond where I had some really good success with some kingfishers the other day, but I wasn't recording anything, I was just out for myself. So I'm headed down there to see if we can have some luck and see if the kingfishers are still there. I have my external monitor I'm gonna hook up so you're gonna be able to see my screen, and we're gonna go through kind of how I have my camera set up. I've been using this for about 3 weeks now, so I've kind of gotten used to how it operates and the different features that it has, and I'm gonna walk through those with you so that hopefully if you're interested in doing video with this camera as well, or you're just trying to figure out how to get started in shooting video with this camera and with this system, hopefully this video will help you. There's also going to be some tips on just kind of how I shoot video as well throughout it. So that's the plan. I just need to hike down to the pond and then we'll get set up. If you're new to my channel, my name is Todd DeWald and I'm a full-time wildlife and conservation photographer in beautiful New England. I invite you to join me in exploring the incredible diversity of wildlife that call this region home. Along the way, I'll share my knowledge and experience to help us all become better naturalists and better photographers. My hope is that these videos inspire you to discover the wildlife in your own area and use photography as a way to protect the natural places that remain. If that sounds like something you'd enjoy, consider subscribing and joining the journey. Thanks for watching. I've made it down to the pond and there's still at least one of the kingfishers here, which is perfect. So I have some camouflage. I'm just going to put that on quick just to kind of help conceal my presence, and then we'll get set up along the water. Okay, let's get down to the water. There's a green heron here as well, which is phenomenal. Right now the kingfisher is on the far side of the pond. So I'm just going to creep up a little bit here, get to where I want to be. I'm just going to make the movement that I need to get into position, and then hopefully things will kind of calm back down. And the heron and kingfisher are on the same tree right now. It's just awesome. They're both as far away as they can be right now, so I'm going to move now before they decide to come close again. The kingfisher is still fishing, even though I just walked out here, which is a really nice sign that it's not too worried about me. I'm going to get my recorder on, my monitor on, and then really get set up, so give me a second. Both kingfishers are here. This is amazing. And the green heron is kind of back behind a little cove section, so it's still here. And I'm just hoping that if I am quiet long enough, they'll come back over to this side, because this is where they were when I saw them the first day yesterday. So while they're over on the other side, let's just talk kind of the basic camera settings and such that I use in the OM-1 Mark II. So I shoot in H.265 mode. It just has the highest quality footage you can get. I shoot in 4K, and those two settings means that I'm shooting in log footage, so it has a lot of nice editing you can do for adjusting colors and such. I find that I'm happy with the footage, how it looks when I'm editing it in Premiere Pro. No complaints with it. It is an extra step because you're shooting in log, so you definitely have to color grade and adjust colors and such. Now when recording in log 400 footage, the screen is very flat, so the display is very flat. So to help you see more of what the actual colors of the scene are going to look like, the OM-1 Mark II has the option of View Assist, which I had turned on, and it just allows the viewfinder to look more natural, more lifelike, have a better color profile, so you can easily see kind of visually what the exposure is going to look like and what the footage is going to look like in the end. This doesn't actually impact the footage, so when you first view the footage on your computer, it's still going to have that very flat log footage, and you're still going to need to edit it to bring it back to lifelike colors. So this is kind of what the raw footage looks like, and then with color editing added to it in post-production. Now a huge benefit of the OM-1 Mark II is the stabilization in camera and combined with the lenses. So with the 150 to 400 millimeter lens, the stabilization is around 8 stops, meaning that you can record video handheld, even up to 1000 millimeters. The camera also has different modes for stabilization in video as well. You're able to do by sensor and digitally, or by just the sensor. I shoot in the MIS2, which is the mode for only the sensor stabilization. I felt this gave me really nice stabilization, and it didn't crop in the footage, and I could crop in the footage in post if I wanted to, rather than having the camera crop for me. You can also change the levels of stabilization as well. I adjusted mine to the +1 setting, which worked really well and gave me better footage for hand holding. You can drop it also down to 0 and then -1 if you don't need as much stabilization. And then for frame rates, if you're shooting in 4K, you're able to do, let's see, the basically 25, 30, or 60 frames per second. You're also able to shoot in 120 and also 200 frames per second if you want to get really slow motion footage, but it's going to be captured in full HD rather than 4K. So typically for me, I'm shooting in the 4K, and I'm shooting typically in essentially the 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second. I alternate depending on what kind of footage I'm capturing. If I want to possibly slow something down in post, I'll shoot it in the 60 frames per second. Otherwise, I'll shoot it in the 30 frames per second. The nice thing about if you have a base frame rate for your footage of 30 frames per second, you're actually able to put 60 frames per second footage on that base footage and still be able to have that normal speed without needing to slow it down. So it doesn't look choppy or anything really too distorted. So you're able to kind of use it as either slow motion footage or as regular standard rate footage. So it's nice to know if you're interested in kind of questioning that. Well, should I record it in 60 frames per second or 25 frames per second? If you're in doubt, just shoot everything in 60 frames per second. That way you have the option to slow it down if you want, or you can keep it at the standard speed. Now the OM-1 Mark II still has shutter speeds for the video settings, so you need to set your shutter speed at least double whatever your frame rate is going to be. So if you're going to be shooting at 30p, then you're going to want to have a frame rate of at least 1/60. And then if you're shooting at 60p for the frame rate, you should have a minimum of about 120. It's 125 for this camera. So just keep that in mind. You have to adjust if you're going to be adjusting your frame rates. Make sure you're adjusting your shutter speed to match as well. And then of course, if maybe there's too much light and you can't open up your aperture, you don't want to open up your aperture anymore to decrease the light that way, and your ISO is down, because the base ISO for this is 400, because you're shooting in log 400 footage. So that's the lowest ISO value you can shoot in. You can always increase your shutter speed so that you can decrease the amount of light. Really the important thing is you want to make sure that your slowest shutter speed is double whatever your frame rate is. Now the Kingfisher just kind of came a little bit closer to me, so that's really good. It's starting to get overcast, which is really nice. It'd be really nice for video. it was kind of bright and sunny. I was kind of worried about what the footage was going to look like, but now it's getting overcast, which is really good. Probably take my hat off so you can see me, except I have hat head. It's okay. I apologize. The nice thing with the OM-1 Mark II menu is that you're able to change the video frame rate and the stabilization and other modes right in the super control panel. So you can just hit a button, brings up this menu, and you're able to adjust things really quickly in the field without having to dig deep into different menus. All right, so I know what you're thinking. Okay, that's all great and dandy. That's the same as every other camera in the world. What about the autofocus capabilities? How's the camera function with autofocus? Does it track moving subjects? What are the autofocus settings and options that you have? So let's get into that now. The Kingfisher just kind of went around this other cove, so I still have some time. So for autofocus modes, you're able to choose from, let's see if I can bring this up here. I'm able to choose from single autofocus, continuous autofocus, manual focus, single autofocus, plus manual focus, and then also a pre-selected manual focus. The single autofocus mode works really well for subjects that are stationary. For example, this Kingfisher, which is perching on a branch. You can see the white box over the bird's head is the subject detection working. And when I activated autofocus, it brings up that green box indicating that it's in focus. And then I can start recording. When you first engage autofocus, you can see the screen brightens up and pulses a little bit as it acquires focus. And an important thing to remember is that this also occurs when recording as well. So if you engage focus while recording, you're going to have this kind of brightening and pulsing in your footage, and it's going to be recorded. So it's best to revert to manual focus if you need to adjust focus when the subject moves in this mode. The good thing is that the OM-1 Mark II is equipped with focus peaking, which allows you to easily identify which areas are in focus and allows you to really get some nice footage that way. Here's an example of what the camera engaging focus looks like when you're recording footage. So if you engage autofocus while recording, you'll notice that the camera is working to try to gain focus, and you'll have this pulsing in there. With this, Phoebe was having a hard time identifying the subject as the bird, probably because I had it a little bit underexposed, but eventually it gained focus, and you can see that white box recognizing the subject there. Now to compare, here's that same Phoebe using the continuous autofocus mode, and you can see that the camera is maintaining focus and tracking the movement, and there's not that pulsing that occurs there. So this is a much more stable looking footage using the continuous autofocus mode. In video mode, the autofocus target mode options are limited, so you're able to have the all area, large, medium, and small size boxes. So no ability to customize the size and shape of the box, which isn't really a huge deal because the box sizes that they offer pretty much cover everything you need anyway. I like using the smaller box size because it helps to eliminate some of the distractions that the camera might get tripped up on, especially in the continuous autofocus mode. But even when using the all area mode, the camera did a decent job locating and identifying the subject. As in, again, with this Phoebe, it was able to lock on and identify the bird, even in the all area mode. And it did really well until the end there, where it kind of locked onto the bright section of the perch and missed when the Phoebe flew off. Now, continuous autofocus mode, I find works well in most instances if you don't have many distractions in the scene. If there's a lot of branches or a lot of leaves or just a lot of things that the camera can get confused on, I find that it doesn't work as well. I don't trust it enough that it's going to stay on my subject, and I'd rather revert to manual focus with focus peaking to be able to keep the subject in focus. I don't have to worry about the camera jumping and just kind of losing focus. And I also find in the continuous autofocus mode, when you don't have focus initially, I find that it takes longer to acquire focus compared to the single autofocus mode. So that's what I found. So I'm typically shooting in the single autofocus with manual focus so that I can use the autofocus to my advantage. It'll lock on to the rough area that I want to focus on, and then I can manual focus from there. I do a lot of manual focusing in my video work anyway, so it's not really a stretch to use manual focus.
Now, I mentioned that the continuous autofocus mode wasn't doing a very good job for me, but I wanted to keep testing it out. And here's an example where I got really nice footage. So this green heron was foraging towards me along the water's edge, and I was using the continuous autofocus mode with the bird's subject detection. And you can see the autofocus is locked onto the head of the bird, and it was doing a really nice job tracking the subject. There was a time when it got tripped up on the reflection, but it adjusted pretty quickly and got back up onto the head of the bird. And it did a nice job tracking even as it approached these grasses and these reeds, which it could have easily gotten confused on. So this is a good example where it really shows that you need to kind of test out different situations with the continuous autofocus and see how it responds, because it might surprise you like it did in this instance for me. And it just really shows that this camera is definitely capable for video as well. Now this clip shows a good example of how I typically shoot video. So even though this kingfisher was still, I used manual focus with peaking engaged to focus on the kingfisher because I was actually shooting through some brush here. So I didn't want the autofocus to get tripped up on the brush, and I knew that manual focus was going to give me a quicker response. So as the bird flew to a perch nearby, I again just engaged manual focus and was able to quickly see what was in focus with peaking and get the footage that I needed. And as the kingfisher flew off the perch to hunt, I kept focus where it was, knowing that typically these birds come back to the same perch after they've caught a fish. So I was able to get the footage of the kingfisher both leaving and returning to the perch. And because I was in the single autofocus mode and really using manual focus, I was able to get focus and recompose and not have to worry about the camera losing focus in that instance.
I have focus peaking programmed to my video record button, so I can tap that to turn on focus peaking even if I'm using continuous autofocus. So I can just see and verify where my focus is. Now there's some other quirks, and I'm going to call them quirks because they're just kind of some weird things you have to get used to. They're not really a negative per se. When you're recording video, when you've already started to record video, you cannot change ISO. So the lowest ISO you can go is 400 when you're shooting in the log 400 format. And once you start recording, you can't change your ISO at all. So make sure you have your ISO set. You can change your shutter speed and your aperture to adjust exposure if, say, the sun starts to come out really quick or something like that. You can still adjust your exposure, but it's probably best that you're going to want to kind of stop and restart your footage anyway, just so you have consistent lighting throughout your entire footage. So that's one of the quirks. Another one I kind of already mentioned was that in the single autofocus plus manual focus, you have to press the AF on button in my case, because that's where I have the AF activation. Press the AF on button to begin activation of the autofocus. Once you get the autofocus that you want or get focus where you want, you have to release the AF on button so then you can start recording footage. Some other things, there is a slight delay in when you stop recording. There is about like a 3-second delay from when you press the record button, whatever you have set to record the video. Once you hit that to stop recording, there's about a 3-second delay where it finishes writing on the card before you can actually see the live screen again. So there's kind of a little bit of a lag, and the screen kind of freezes momentarily. So that's, say if there's a bird on the perch and in the time where you stopped recording video and then it refreshed, the bird flew away, well, you're going to have kind of a screen showing the bird's still there, but then it's going to suddenly not be there. Again, it's not a huge deal, it's just something to get used to. It's like a 3-second lag, it's not gonna make or break too many things. Obviously, if you're recording some really fast action or something like that, and you wanna switch right to photo really quickly, there is gonna be that little bit of a delay. And the same thing holds true if you're shooting a long burst of photos. Say you're in like SH2 and you have like a really high frame rate. You're shooting a long burst of photos for a lot of action, then you wanna switch to video to also get some video of it. Well, there's gonna be a lag depending on how many photos you took in that burst. Because these are SD cards, they're a little bit slower. It's gonna be a little bit of a lag to finish writing on that card for the photos, and then you can switch to video. So you can't switch unless the camera is done writing onto that card. Now I'm using a SanDisk Extreme Pro SD card. Has the fastest read and write speeds that I can find for SD cards. I think it's 300 megabits per second. So it's a fast write speed and a fast read speed. So it's as fast as I can be. It definitely has an improvement with that card compared to using my other card. I think I had a Lexar card as well. That was a 250 megabit per second write speed. So it's not that much of a difference, but that extra 50 megabits per second really did improve the kind of the downtime in between switching from photo to video. If you are switching from photo to video and you weren't recording or there wasn't a long burst of photos beforehand, it does switch pretty immediately from photo mode to video mode or vice versa. So the main question is do I like using this camera for video? And the answer is yes. And you might be kind of scratching your head, well, there's no real continuous autofocus modes. You have to manual focus pretty much for everything, especially for movement. So why would I want to choose this camera for video? And the answer is because it is so light. I am able to shoot video with the effective focal length of 1000 millimeters with this lens. I'm able to do it handheld, stable video, and because of that, I am able to get into positions and get into locations where I wouldn't have otherwise been possible to do, with having to set up a tripod, having to put a whole bunch more gear out to get set up and record things. I'm able to do this handheld with this camera and get some really, really nice footage. And there's a lot to be said about just how much pleasure it is to use something without having to have so much extra gear lugging around. And again, like I was explaining, there's some quirks you have to get used to. You kind of have to use the camera and test out the different modes yourself I mean, it really took me about 2 weeks to get used to it and just to kind of understand how the camera operated and worked. Every camera is going to be different. This camera is no different. And really, if you really kind of dig deep into the menus, read the manuals, look at the different options and how you can set things up, it becomes a very capable camera. I mean, you can just see that. I hope you can see that from the footage, just from these Kingfishers. I am set up here on the banks. They're coming close to me. I'm able to get some fantastic 4K footage at 60p, 60 frames per second. And I mean, I'm just enjoying all of it. So it goes a long way in that. And I have been pushing this camera to the limit, getting video. I've been doing a lot of projects with it, doing a lot of YouTube videos with it. And I have not, the whole time I've used it, the 3 weeks I've been using it, there has not been a single instance where I've been like, oh man, I wish I had my Z9 so I could get this footage better. No, it comes down to understanding the system, understanding its limitations, and working with that, and understanding how to work with that. And you're just able to get some fantastic footage. I've not regretted using this at all. This camera has all the features with the focus peaking. You're able to magnify your screen so you can see exactly what you're looking at, make sure it's in focus. It has all the features you need to get excellent footage in 4K in different frame rates that you want. And definitely don't shy away from it. If you have this camera, if you're interested in getting this camera for video, it is capable. You will be happy. Just give it some time, work through some things, and yeah, have fun with it, because I mean, this setup is fantastic. So that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments down below. If you're using this camera and you have some questions on the settings that I have, let me know. If if you like this one, if it was helpful for you, leave me a thumbs up, give me a thumbs up, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I hope you've enjoyed these videos. I'm trying to do more kind of a variety of tutorials, but also doing more just video series for habitats and that sort of thing. So if you're liking what you're seeing, I really appreciate the subscribe. It's a really free and easy way to show your support and help this videos reach more of an audience. I'm really trying to grow the channel, and any support from you is really, really appreciated. So thank you so much. But that'll be it. I will see you again real soon. And again, thank you again to OM System for loaning me this gear and letting me have the pleasure of using it and getting some of this amazing footage out here with it. So until then, I'll see you next time.